Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello there. My name is Salim Javed and I'm an assistant professor at the Faculty of Mass Communication and Media Technology at SGT University. And this sixth video of Module 2 is all about editing. We will also be holding a practical session on editing in which we will learn how to edit a video. We will also learn about the different editing devices, their meaning and their importance, how editing creates a new event and how the editing has evolved since its beginning. So, let's get started. It is editing that helps us to put all the shots together in a proper scene so that we can give a cohesive look to our film. Editing is so important that if it can actually make or break the entire film. But how it all started? Well, there is a story, and the name of that story is called The History of Editing. So, when the first paid public screening was organized on December 28, 1895 by Lumiere brothers, Louis and Auguste Lumiere, Georges Méliès, an illusionist by profession, was also one of the members to witness the film screening. And what he saw on that day had a significant impact upon him. He was smart enough to realize the outstanding and commercial potential in the film as a medium and offered a handsome amount right there on the spot to buy the cinematograph. But Lumiere brothers wanted to keep a close control on their machine, and moreover they saw Georges Méliès as a contender. So they refused to sell him their machine. So after this incident, Georges Méliès started looking for more options, as there were many experiments going on in the same field. He settled himself with animatograph, a film projector that was developed by Robert W. Paul. As Georges Méliès was not just an illusionist or magician, as he created many illusions at his own, he was also a skillful artificer. He converted the film projector into a film camera, and by April 4, 1896, he was able to hold the first screening of his film. As luck would have it, in autumn or the fall of 1896, Méliès discovered something which changed the very nature of how films would be viewed in coming future, the way you and I see a film today. While he was shooting a bus coming out of a tunnel in Paris, his camera jammed in the middle of the take. He immediately started checking his camera, and when he got the camera working, the bus was gone and there was a hearse in place of that. Now, hearse is a vehicle for conveying the coffin at a funeral. So bus was gone, a hearse was there. As he was in a hurry, he was not able to note this change. You know the feeling, right? You stop seeing all the things around when you are, when you are lost in what you are doing. So you stop seeing things. It happens. You must have experienced it. When Méliès developed the film, even the magician was flabbergasted by the magical thing that happened at that moment. The bus turned into the hearse right there on the screen. The camera's capacity to manipulate time and space was discovered at that very moment. Now, with this camera's capacity to manipulate time and space, Méliès was able to invent many technical and narrative tricks, and he synthesized all of them perfectly in many of his films. The Haunted Castle, which was released in 1896, is a brilliant example of disappearing and reappearing trick. Effects like fade in and fade out and dissolves allowed Méliès to create unbelievable spectacles of a kind which otherwise were impossible to achieve in live theatre. With these devices and tricks, he was able to bring the traditional theatrical elements in actualities. You in coming videos, you'll be knowing what actuality is. It's like basically recording the event as it is. Now, it was no more about capturing the event or the mundane single action shot, but we already discovered a new storytelling vehicle to go to the moon. Year after year, there were more and more films from Méliès, but it was A Trip to the Moon, which was released in 1902, which not only became a commercial success but an international grosser as well. As this medium was still in fancy, so it borrowed the narrative style up to the limit of being it a tableau from today's point of view. But one must consider it as being a technological limitation and not as an intellectual limitation. Edwin S. Potter was greatly influenced by the work of George Méliès and especially A Trip to the Moon. Now, the illegal copies of A Trip to the Moon made a great fortune in USA, and Edwin S. Potter, the projectionist, was also involved in the process. It was the life of an American fireman, the film made by Edwin S. Potter in 1903, in which he used different style of editing, though there were some temporal overlaps also. But it was the cutting between two locations as if it is happening simultaneously in The Great Train Robbery, the film which was released in 1903, what makes it a masterpiece. As far as editing is concerned, it was a more controlled effort. With one master shot, the straight cut between two scenes without using fades or dissolves was something remarkable. Potter could, see the editing ability to alter time and was prepared to cast a different artistic language. As till then, the scene was considered to be the basic unit of film production process. Edwin S. Potter changed it for good and established that it was not the scene but the shot, and the arrangement of the shots in time is the basic unit of the film production process. The altering jargon part of the editing would not be, complete without mentioning the contribution of D.W. Griffith and his work. The Adventure of Dolly, which was released in 1908, which was his directorial debut also. This directorial debut was capable of creating quite a sensation among viewers and critics alike. though it was it was shot in scene-wise style, but the pace was maintained by starting a scene only when the action was about to start. It was his film Greaser's Gauntlet, which again was released in 1908, where he reveals his trademark, the cross-cutting. It was a brand new concept, and his greatest contribution was continuity editing. Continuity editing is a cutting style that keeps a feeling of consistent reality. Now, many other contemporaries of his also made meaningful discoveries during this time, like 180-degree rule, multicam setup, line of access, and no-go area. This band of creative people was on a constant move to find newer things for making this new art form as convincing as possible. Concepts like establishing shot, reverse shot, matching eye line, and cutting on action were, some of the discoveries. To keep the continuity and excitement intact, D.W. Griffith cut parallel among three different scenes in his film The Lonely Villa, which was released in year 1909. The Birth of a Nation, which was released in 1915, was the culmination of all the Griffith cinematic and editing techniques. In his next film, Intolerance, which was released in 1916, he intercutted among four separate narratives. If you have not seen these two films, I request you to see these two films. They are amazing. You will learn a great deal from these films. Simultaneously, the Soviet filmmakers were working on an independent language of editing, which came to be known as montage. Lev Kuleshov, Dziga Vertov, Ashvir Shub, Podovkin, and Sergei Eisenstein, and many others also, are the prominent filmmakers of that time. Lev Kuleshov's creative contribution is known by the name of Kuleshov effect. But why it is important? It is important because till this time, till Lev Kuleshov's time, the editing was only a useful device that helped in a better arrangement of shots and sequences. But it was this experiment, the Kuleshov effect, which actually helped establish editing as one of the most powerful ways to turn those moving images into a work of art, and provided unlimited opportunities for subjectivization of objectivity. For his experiment for Kuleshov effect, Kuleshov used a close-up shot of an expressionless man. He was not expressionless man. The name of that actor is Ivan Moshtokin, with three different shots. The Moshtokin close-up expressionless face with a young female in the coffin, expressionless face with a bowl of soup, and the expressionless face with an attractive lady in reclining position in a sofa. The synthesis of these three sets of two different images was absolutely astonishing. The interpretation was of sadness, hunger, and of lust. These three sets of example had the same shot of Ivan Mashtokin, but the audience read the expression in connection with the following shot. The interpretation of audience was on the larger context of the situation. The exact same three shots, but the order changed the meanings. For Kuleshov, the creation of the film did not start with the camera roll, it was just the raw material. A film is born at edit, which the Soviets called montage. It's from the French verb monter, which means to assemble. Now, this montage theory was further developed and refined by Sergei Eisenstein. The first screening of the battleship Potemkin took place in December 1925 and it premiered in January 1926. Battleship Potemkin is Sergei Eisenstein's one of the most influential and critically acclaimed film. On the one hand, if we hold continuity editing of D.W. Griffith, then on the other side we hold Eisenstein's theory of montage. If D.W. Griffith and his American contemporaries helped in creating an enhanced version of live theater which was more sophisticated than for Sergei Eisenstein and his Russian contemporaries, the continuity system was a form of bourgeois since it helped creating a manipulated and illusionary version of reality. For one, it was a physical process and for other, it was a mental process. For Sergei Eisenstein and his Russian contemporaries, it was about the conflict. It was about the conflict between the ideas, the Marxist dialect. Eisenstein's next film, October 10 Days That Shook the World, which was released in 1928, the 10th anniversary recreation of the Bolshevik Revolution, was full of this intellectual montage. The montage theory was even pushed further in 1950s as the French New Wave and other visionaries like Alfred Hitchcock. You must have seen one of his films, Psycho, which was released in 1960, began incorporating montage as part of their storytelling techniques. As far as the history of editing is concerned, we can find three distinct routes or styles or blocks. So, the first set belongs to George Milley. The second belongs to Edwin S. Potter and D.W. Griffith. And the last is of Kuleshov and Eisenstein. Though, one can claim or one would claim to incorporate the editing style of French New Wave as one more, block or one more route. But if you observe this style closely, you would find it as one of the offshoots of montage theory only. Now, let's try to understand some of the editing devices like cut, dissolve, fade, and wipe, and the importance of it in the process of achieving a seamless effect. Editing is an element of composition, and if you remember, composition creates meaning. So, editing is an element of composition and composition creates meaning. It is editing that helps us to put all the shots together in a proper sequence so that we can give it a cohesive look to our film. So, let's start understanding them. First in the list is cut. If you remember in the first video of module 2 where we talked about cuts and shots, there we learned about cut, and cut is an instant replacement of one shot by the next shot. Do see that video so that you can understand the concept of cut better. Now, next in the list is fade in and fade out. They are two different transitions. When we slowly fade to screen, which means, gradually or slowly from black screen we move to some image or photo. Technically, from black to slowly coming to an image or photo is called fade in. It is like, when you switch on your radio and you slowly increase the volume, that is fade in. From photo or image, when you go back to black screen, so the opposite of what we have been learning will be called fade out. Technically speaking, fade in and fade out, it suggests the beginning and completion of a scene, sequence, or maybe a film also. Next in the list is dissolve. Now, in dissolve, both the outgoing and the incoming picture or visual mixes on screen for a while. It is used, when we want to make a comparison between two or among many things. Suppose you have a shot of a snow-clad mountain and you dissolve it with a temple top. So what you are trying to say is that this temple is as tall or as majestic like this mountain. Now, next in the list is wipe. You must have seen many times when the image on the screen is, simply pushed off. That is a wipe. Wipe can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. It is, a transition which implies continued action that is unresolved. Now, after the history of editing and the different types of transition, let's move to the practical part of editing. Here you will not see me and will only hear my voice, because if I put this window it will disturb the total look of the frame. So let's start the editing session. So let's start and see how nonlinear editing is done. Nonlinear editing is computer-based editing. Other softwares are Adobe Premiere Pro, Sony Vegas, Avid, and Final Cut Pro. I'm going to use Final Cut Pro in this session. This is the interface of Final Cut Pro, or FCP. At the top here, it is called menu bar, and this area is browsing window. This area is called viewer, and this area is called canvas. This area, which is at the bottom, is called sequence or timeline. Once we have our data in browsing window, then we start working with our viewer. We can put in and out while watching our footage in viewer window and put the selected or desired footage on the timeline in the chronological order. And when we play the selected footage, it can be seen in the canvas. Now let's talk about how we can use effects. It is next to the editing class 1 in the browsing window. Click on Effect and choose Video Transition from here. You will find lots of options here. Let's choose 3D transition here. I am using cross zoom. I just have to left click and drag it and drop it between the two clips. You can see that here it is showing red color. It means that the rendering is required. To render, you simply have to press Command with R. So it is Command R for rendering. Now let's play it. This was cross zoom. In this way, you can simply select any transition by left click and drag and drop between the two clips. Now let's talk about how we can add title or insert text in our video. For this, you simply go to, look here, it is the sign for the text. you click it and you go to text, and in this text you again go to text. It opens a new window. You go to controls option in viewer and you can see sample text written here. I just type the name of our class, first editing class. Now you can go to video and same first editing class is written there or written here. Just simply drag it as we did before and drop it on the top of the clip. And when we place the cursor on the clip, we can see our text on top of our visual. You double click the text and place it accordingly. Now let's see how we can use solid captions. We again go to the same text icon and select mate option and choose color solid. Now we go to option control, from which we can select any color. I have selected this color and have placed it on timeline, and I place the caption on this solid color and adjust its font and change its size. All the options are written here. You just have to carefully see it and click what you want to use. Now let's learn about how to export it. Go to the last point and press O, which means out, and go to the point where project has started, the starting point, and press I, which means in. So we have, in this way, we have selected the entire project. Then you go to file, go to export, choose QuickTime conversion, or you can also choose QuickTime movie also. I am choosing QuickTime conversion. As soon as I select it, it asks me to save as. I write the name, first editing class. After it, go to the option. Here you get to see compression settings. You click on settings. In setting option here, you get to see H.264 setting. It works fine for the entire web. It's good. All the options that you are seeing here are compression formats. You can choose as per your requirement, like DVPAL or any HD format. So let's select HDV 1080p25, frame 25, and change here also to frame 25 and press OK. Here you can see size is written. You choose accordingly. I want full HD and I press OK. Now just save it. Now export is in progress. It's done. Let's play it. Well, how was the experience? Just see it again to understand it better. So in this video, we understood what is editing, what is the importance of editing, and the journey so far. The practical session on how to edit your video, which is at a basic level, must have been useful. If you practice it well, I am very sure that you will be able to make best use of what you have learned through this practical editing session. I hope that the information provided in this video will come handy whenever you need it, and this video must have solved some of your doubts. I look forward seeing you in the next video. Till then, take care and stay safe.